Imagine if you knew the 5 ways that you can communicate that everybody pays attention and everybody uses. Hi there, I'm Carol Serby and I'm with the Ominika Healing Institute, Northern British Columbia's premier institute for hypnotherapy, energy coaching, what else do we do? Ceremonies, workshops, and training. So thank you so much for joining us here today. Another episode where we're learning to follow your map and revolutionize the way you understand how your body is speaking to you. So, Carol, what do you mean we only communicate in 5 ways? Well, it's true. And let's just dig a little deeper. And what I actually mean is the body communicates with itself and with other bodies in only 5 ways. You have your visual, your auditory, your kinesthetic, your gustatory, and your I forget the last one. The last one is sense of smell and sense of taste. I forget. Anyways, doesn't matter. So those are the 5 senses, right? And when you think about it, so I'm not talking, writing on paper or all of that, because that's created through a combination of our kinesthetic, our visual, and what we're hearing inside of our heads, that little voice in your head. So let's talk about visual for a moment. So when you look at someone or something, what you're seeing is a conglomeration of atoms, neutrons, protons. I don't understand the science behind it. I'm not a scientist. But we have all these little pieces that combine together to create this energetic blob. And our eyes take that form, and the most closest together atoms and particles and neutrons and protons and all that looks like is not actually, but it looks like a solid mass to us. Our eyes help us out by creating the form's outline, creating a defined form for us. So now we are able to reach out and touch. That defined form is done by our eyes, and it is not a representation of what is actually there. So that's kind of an interesting thought. Same with, right now I'm speaking. So it's not that words are coming out of my mouth, but what's happening is my tongue and my teeth and my palate and my lips are all working together to create sound waves. And as those sound waves move through, they're captured by your eardrum, which vibrates, right? Again, vibration, right? And internally interprets what these sound vibrations coming out of my mouth are saying. So we've hit on the 3 top ones. So the visual, the auditory, and the auditory and the speaking. Okay. We also sense kinesthetically. Okay. So how many of you have ever had the heebie-jeebies, the goose pimples, right? Okay, that's kinesthetic. So remember going back to when I'm talking about this human form and the densest part of the form? Well, our eyes create an outline around the densest part of the form. That doesn't mean that vibrationally and molecule-wise, we actually stop at that line. We don't. So that this now gets into what's scientifically referred to as, and yes, I do know this, the proprioceptive nervous system. Okay, and that nervous system, that part of who you are, actually extends basically out to the end of your fingertips. And it's the part of you that knows once you reach your hand into your pocket and you touch your keys, you know that that's your keys without even having to pull them out and look at them and feel them and recognize them, right? As soon as your finger touches either your key or your key ring or whatever, you go, oh, those are my keys. That's your proprioceptive nervous system kicking into place there. So the other interesting part is the proprioceptive nervous system is also in the more spiritual world known as the aura. So we have all these things going on in the scientific community, the proprioceptive nervous system, and the spiritual community, the aura, that kind of they validate each other. And we know on a scientific level that that's exactly how it works. I also made a post earlier this week about pendulums. So a lot of people believe, and I'm a spiritualist minner. I believe in spirit. I believe in connection to source. I believe in all of that. But I also believe in trusting the inner self. I also believe that all of that stuff, that source and spirit and all that, works through me. Okay, and sometimes I hear messages and sometimes I see things, and yes, I do experience that, but a lot of it comes from inside of me. So when we get back to pendulums, so pendulums, again, vibrational, right? So there's 154 muscles that go from the top of the shoulder to the tips of the fingers. And it's all the minuscule, minute vibrations that your body is having in response to the question that you ask that's giving you the answer yes or no. Now, where does that inner knowing come from? So then we get more into the spiritual aspect, that understanding of source, the understanding of a higher good, a karma, whatever you want to talk about. Just that inner knowing, that inner trust, that inner understanding, knowing that you have all the answers, you have everything that you need within this vibrational body. So I want to just tie all this vibration back into the understanding how your body is speaking to you through your pain, illness, trauma, disease, okay? So many of us, when we were at the age before we could start to make moral decisions. So we're talking, by the time we're 7 at the outset, most of this happens at kind of 0, even pre just baby's in utero. In utero to about the age of 3 or 4 is when a majority of our traumas happen, before we're at the age where we can actually decipher the truer, greater meaning. Kids are always more than happy to take things on themselves, make it their fault. And through this process of us not being able to have the moral decision-making process, we block a lot of negative experiences, thinking that it's going to allow us to move forward without pain and without trauma. The problem is when you block the crappy stuff, you also block a lot of the good stuff. Sorry about that. So we were talking about kids that stuff their negative emotions and everything when they're young, how they forget those events when they're under that age of moral decision making, but how they also start to forget some of the good stuff that happens, the positive stuff that happens. So trauma, holding on to trauma is really quite harsh on the system. And then what happens is when we forget, not right word, because we don't forget. There's nothing that we forget. It's either stored in the conscious memory or it's stored in the unconscious memory. And that's it. There's nothing that we actually forget. So those traumas, those things that we decide that we don't want to remember, those things that maybe hurt us or or were too much for us, or too big for us, or too overwhelming for us, what we actually do is we, and the term is called stuffing it. So the interesting thing about stuffing is that when you stuff an emotion, we have actually noticed that your body is a map. So every person will stuff the same emotion in the same place. So we're starting to be able to pull out, depending on where your pain, illness, trauma, or disease is, we're able to actually start to pull out what the foundational stuff was. So that is really exciting. That is starting to really make this work a lot easier, and a lot easier to perform, and a lot easier to understand. So it's true too, and I just wanted to read this, and this is from the book Healing Dimensions by Brent Baum. And he says that if you push any endocrinologist hard enough, they will admit that yes, it's true. Under mental stress, the limbic hypothalamic system in the brain converts the neutral messages of the mind into the neurohormonal message molecules of the body. These in turn can direct the endocrine system to produce the steroid hormones that can reach into the nucleus of different cells of the body to modulate the expression of genes. These genes then direct the cells to produce the various molecules that will regulate metabolism, growth, activity level, sexuality, and the immune response in sickness and health. So there really is a mind-gene connection. So the mental stress, holding on to these traumas, holding on to these past vibrations without experiencing the positiveness or creating a neutralness to them, is actually being admitted by endocrinologists that yes, they actually do mutate the gene and create pain, illness, injury, and disease. So what is the message in all this? So the message in all this is, in regards to trauma, we can correlate the pain, illness, trauma, and disease to specific emotions that are held generally in the same part of the body. And I say generally, even though before I said they're held in the same, because everybody's experience fluctuates a little bit. So within that solid, yes, it's held here, we have to be a little bit flexible in understanding the extent of the experience. And again, so when we have experience, there we take it all the way back to vibration again, right? So when we have an experience, we have the trauma of hearing our parents arguing, or we have the trauma of seeing our parents arguing, or maybe a friend die in a car crash, or we have the trauma in the body of being spanked or hit, or maybe hurt physically. So all of these things get held in the body. They get, to recap, okay, we have the vibrational elements that the body experiences, okay, and the ones that are considered negative or harmful or scary or overwhelming create a traumatic experience, create stress within the body. And the endocrinologists are now admitting that yes, this mental stress could modulate the genes, which now creates the pain, illness, and disease. Okay, so over the next couple of weeks, my next lives are going to be about releasing this stress. Okay, so make sure that you hook in Thursday mornings, 9 o'clock, and let's start talking about how do we release this stress. I know we had this circle going on, and it took me a long way to get around, and I appreciate your patience, honestly, because it's a big subject. It's a big subject, and we have to bring in some of the woo-woo language, and we have to bring in some of the scientific language, and sometimes in general it's just hard to wrap your head around all the way around. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start to look at how to reduce this mental stress. How do we start to release this stuff in the body? So watch for those over the next couple of weeks, okay? Because it's my goal here to help you rid yourself of the trauma and disease that is triggered by what is repressed emotions, the stuffing. You're stuffing the emotions. So follow me over the next couple of weeks. Let's talk about how to reduce those stresses, how to start to release some of that stuffing, and how to start to let it go. So that was a mouthful this morning, but thank you very much for hanging in with me. So if you have any questions about this content, please just leave a message or leave a comment, or even better yet, if you think anybody can get any value out of this, share it with your friends. I really appreciate that. And if you're looking for energy healing techniques or understanding the conscious and unconscious mind, hypnotherapy, vibrational therapy, all of that kind of stuff, and really how your body is speaking to you in its own language. See, the thing is we're taught to understand the language that we hear, but we're not taught to understand the language that's going on within the body. And that's my goal, is to help you learn about that. So if you'd like more about that, then sign up for our monthly digest. We'll email you once a month just a summary of all the events that have happened over the month and what's coming forward. And if you would like an opportunity to work with us here at Ominika, also go to my website at omnikahealing.ca and sign up for the free 30-minute clarity call. It's free to you. You get 30 minutes of my time. We can talk about what's going on for you. I can offer suggestions, and even if you just want to pick my brain, okay, I'm there for you. 30 minutes of my time, it's all yours. And if you have any specific questions, I'll answer those. And I'll see where you're stuck and where you're struggling, and I'll see where the repressed emotions are. Because there's so much more to this than what I can explain in a short 15-minute video. We start to pull in micro expressions, and we start to pull in face reading, and we start to pull in, again, just the intuitive nature of who we innately are. So I'll offer any ideas as we're chatting, and of course you can ask me questions, and if I feel as though we can work together really well, I'll make you an offer. We also offer monthly lectures and workshops, and you can sign up for those at omnikahealing.ca. If you can't make them live and in person, I am videotaping them, so they will be available on a membership site coming shortly. It's our purpose here to support you in your courage and exploring the clarity in listening to your intuitive mastery already within your body. And we want to give you the opportunity to live full throttle so you can help others and give others permission to do the same. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again next week. Okay, bye-bye.